Welcome to Chokeholds and Chill. I'm Jen, middle-aged grappler, coffee addict, and proud owner of the world's ugliest armbar.
And I'm Mallory, your training partner who's always laughing, even when being absolutely smashed, submission lover, and early bird fundamentals coach.
Here on Chokeholds and Chill, we dive into the lives of our favorite sparring partners, the highs and lows of training, and what it really means to chase big dreams on and off the mats.
But it's not just about jiu-jitsu. We're here for the laughs, the lessons, and the moments that remind us why we love this crazy sport and this crazy life.
We're here to talk about the good, the bad, and the hilarious, because let's face it, the mat teaches us more than just arm bars and mount escapes.
It teaches us about ourselves and how to navigate through life while being a part of an incredible community of people.
I mean, that's how we met.
Whether you're a seasoned competitor, a white belt finding your footing, or someone who just loves a good story, this podcast is for you.
It's about the roles we take, the people we meet, and the lessons that stick with us both on and off the mats.
So grab your gi, tie your belt tight, and get ready to roll with us.
This is Chokeholds and Chill. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Chokeholds and Chill. Thank you guys for joining us. Once again, this is part 2 of our interview with Maddy Jones. If you have not listened to part 1, we highly suggest you go back, give that a listen, and then pop back over here to catch up with this one. And now rejoining us, where we left off with our conversation last, is Maddy Jones.
Yeah, I did not anticipate having so much to talk about and having it, be as long as it was last weekend.
I did too.
I loved it. By the end of it, though, I was like, I'm tired of hearing myself talk.
Well, we weren't. So I'm really glad that we wanted to talk some more, because it was actually like, I was getting stressed because I was like, I really want to keep talking to her, but we had to go. So I'm really glad that we're going to chat again, because I really enjoyed our conversation last week. So I feel like we could do 4 episodes with you.
I agree.
I want to write a book someday, about some of these different experiences.
Very well spoken.
Yeah. I think you should totally write a book.
I just might.
I'd read it.
Okay, so if you're good, we can just get into this and continue where we left off. So, Maddy, when you were living in California, did you have the opportunity to train out there?
So this was one of the challenges that I faced in California. Weirdly enough, I never actually trained outside of my home gym through my whole jiu-jitsu training before I moved.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Weird, right?
Yeah.
Looking back, I can't believe that happened. I mean, I went to some seminars, but with people from my home gym. So I was never without the training partners that I always trained with. And, blue to purple belt, I was doing jiu-jitsu at home, so I really just didn't chase training anywhere except for my home gym through that whole time. And so then I moved, and I wasn't really sure what jiu-jitsu was going to look like, because I'd never experienced jiu-jitsu outside of my home gym. And so I was nervous. I wasn't sure how my purple belt from Oregon, given to me during COVID by my boyfriend at the time, was going to measure up to, California Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
The other people at my belt level there. I was really scared.
Yeah.
And I just, had never done jiu-jitsu with people I didn't know, so that was really weird for me as well. So I did train, but it took me, I didn't really find my jiu-jitsu footing in California.
Mm-hmm.
I would go and train at a gym, and I was like, these people are scary. They're strangers. Because, especially during COVID, jiu-jitsu was very just with my close friends.
Yeah.
And with my partner at the time. So it was a very, one-on-one experience versus kind of putting yourself out there, putting your body in the hands of strangers.
Right. It was just so personal before.
Yeah. So I trained, once in a while. I also, moved to California without much set up. So I was staying with friends and didn't have access to a washer and dryer. And you know
Oh,
how important
Oh
that is for
no.
doing jujitsu,
oh
right?
gosh.
I had like four dirty geese in my car at all times just
Oh my,
because
your car
took a,
smelled terrible.
yeah, exactly.
Oh
So
no.
I I know I did jujitsu here and there, but I didn't really like, train consistently while I was in California. It wasn't until I moved to jujitsu or moved to Oklahoma that my jujitsu really got to kind of blossom. And I feel like my jujitsu away from Oregon really began.
When you were in California, did you like dip into a bunch of different gyms and kind of like shop around, or were you just training at like one gym intermittently?
Yeah, I mostly shopped around.
Hmm.
Um, just tried to get a feel for some different places. I'd only trained at one gym, so that was my only experience. So I didn't want to train at just one other gym, like
Right.
dive headfirst and just pick this one,
Yes.
versus another one. So I really trained like sometimes twice a week, sometimes once a week, sometimes skipped a week and just bounced around.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, I had probably one of the most embarrassing moments of my life trying out a new gym.
Oh,
Like
please share.
I
Yes, do
I
tell.
used to well when people they'll ask you as an icebreaker, for whatever reason, the question that comes up sometimes in conversation is, "Oh, what's like one of the most embarrassing things that's happened to you?" And I never had a story, but I do have one now. I came in to train at this new gym. And, everyone does warm ups differently, but they were a gym that did the, running in a circle.
Oh, yeah.
um, and so we're running in a circle, and for whatever reason, my toe like catches on the mat.
Oh.
This is like the first time I've ever trained there.
Oh my
It's
God.
the first like 2 minutes of class.
I'm
I'm a
panicking for
purple
you.
belt with no stripes on my belt. And I trip on my foot and I like cannot get my feet back underneath me. I like go flying
Oh.
and run into one of their matted walls.
Oh
Like
my God.
I don't even know how this happened. Um Everybody like stops and looks at me and I'm like, I swear I'm a purple belt, guys. I swear I'm a purple
You're
belt.
not
Please.
supposed to be doing the warm-ups,
They're
right?
like, this bitch can't even run.
Yeah, literally.
Oh, I'm so good.
I
So
was
happy you told that.
I
I'm
was
like
mortified.
crying.
Did you break your toe?
No, it wasn't broken.
Oh, good.
It definitely like was a little tweaked, like they're like, "Are you
Yeah.
okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." But my toe hurt for like the rest of the class.
I would have just kept
Um,
walking right out the door. Be like, see you guys never again. I'll never see you again.
I thought about excusing myself to go to the restroom and then like just leaving.
Yeah.
But then I was like, but they won't know that I actually can do jujitsu.
Yep,
So
gotta prove
I have to stay and prove myself.
Yes.
And
Good
so
for
I did.
you.
But now I have this hilarious story of probably like the clumsiest moment of my life.
That's hilarious. Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
gosh. How long were you training in California?
I lived there for a year, so kind of on and off for a year. But, like I said, never consistently, but I definitely longed for it. I was like, like I want to get my feet back underneath myself in jujitsu. Like I want to do this. I want to keep doing jujitsu. So yeah, I was tired of paying rent in California. It was so expensive. And we made the decision to move to Oklahoma. It's kind of a crazy move and crazy decision, but we moved here. We love it here.
Yes.
And there is so much jujitsu in Tulsa. I did not know this before moving here, but I got here and I was like, wait a second. Is this like some hidden jujitsu like community over here? Yeah, there's so many gyms. There's actually that brand, Gayadama.
Yes.
The owner of Gayadama, she and her husband own a gym in Tulsa. It's crazy.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
amazing. We love
Yeah.
their stuff.
We are obsessed with
So
their stuff.
obsessed.
Yeah.
It's
I
embarrassing
had
how obsessed we are.
I heard about them when I was in Oregon and was like, oh, maybe I'll buy a set, eventually. And then I'm training at a gym downtown. There's this amazing open mat every Saturday, and it's kind of just open to the public, like,
Oh, wow.
and any gym. And so many people in Tulsa show up for this open mat. It's like everyone who does jiu-jitsu in Tulsa knows about it. Everyone shows up. It's a packed mat. It's 1 hour, 6-minute rounds. So you get 10 6-minute rounds.
Yes.
And everyone shows up to roll. So it's like you never have trouble finding someone to roll with because there's only 10 rounds. You can't, the time is short, this only happens once a week. So when you finish your roll, like there's no awkward, like looking around trying to figure out, oh, who am I going to pick? Right. Somebody looks at you and they're like, let's go.
And you're moving.
Yeah. So I really started to fall in love with jiu-jitsu again at that open mat. And all of a sudden I was like, somebody mentioned something about Gaidama and they're like, don't you know that she owns it? And I was like, what? That's crazy.
That's so cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And probably one of the coolest things that's happened to me since getting my brown belt. This is kind of off on a tangent, but the owner of Gaidama invited me to train at like a Gaidama team event where it was just all the sponsored athletes of Gaidama, all black belts and only a few brown belts. And she texted me and asked me to come. I was like, oh my gosh,
Maddy, I have chills for you.
I know, my heart stopped when I read that message. I was like, this black belt woman thought of me to train with all these other black belt and brown belt champions.
Amazing.
Like a lot of them have titles, and so I was in shock. It was so much fun. Probably like one of the hardest training sessions I've done in a while because, there's no chill rounds, right? Because like, it's not like you go with your white belt friend and then you go with your purple belt friend. They're all brown and black belt rolls. It was really tough.
That's wow. That's amazing though. Like that must have been such a cool experience. Oh.
It really was. And I just felt so like honored, and just excited. Like somebody thought of my jiu-jitsu and was like, yeah, she's cool. She's good.
Yeah.
She can come.
What a compliment.
For real. Yeah. When I got to Oklahoma, I just started training around.
Mm-hmm.
And there was actually a gym that was like literally 2 minutes from my house. And I just really fell in love with that gym. It's a great gym.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I picked my training back up and slowly ended up, kind of back at my rhythm that I had when I was, a blue belt where I was training like 5-6 nights a week.
Wow.
Just obsessed again,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So then somewhere along the way, you earned your brown belt. So tell us about that.
So it was this happened not this last December, but the December before that. Mm-hmm. So it would have been December 2023. And for most of that year, I had been just training my little heart out. Mm-hmm. Just training, at that open mat on Saturdays I was telling you about, training so many weeknights or even noon classes. I just found my like rhythm again, and I just found like my love for jiu-jitsu again. And I like just could not fathom not having jiu-jitsu, each day I itched for it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get, some gyms, like as you get in the upper belts, they don't stripe you.
Right.
So it's been a long time since I had a stripe. I think I had one stripe on my purple belt. And so I wasn't really expecting it. But sure enough, at the December promotion party, my name gets called to come up and get my brown belt. And I was shocked.
Wow.
And it was a little bit bittersweet, because this was the first belt that I got not at my home gym. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I knew the person who was putting the belt around my waist, but like, I didn't, we weren't that close. There's a lot of us who are being promoted. This gym I go to is really big. Like there's so many people on the mat. And that's one of the things that drew me to it is like, there's just a lot more options for me as a woman to like look in a room and just have, there are some females on the mat as well, but just to have a really giant pick of guys too, so it gives me a lot of options for who I can train with and who I can roll with. So I didn't really know the person super close that put the belt around my waist. So that was a little bit bittersweet. I was like, at my home gym, I would have known them all, and like, I would have had like the little speech that your instructor gives you, about getting your brown belt, but it was kind of just quick, a lot of us got our, we're being promoted that night. So it was not really the promotion that like I was used to as coming from a smaller gym, but it was still really like a really amazing moment. I teared up a little bit, but I was like, I gotta be strong. Can't let this see me cry.
Yes.
But yeah, I was shocked. You're a purple belt, right? And that brown belt comes next. So like, why is it so shocking when it gets put around you? I think it's because we don't have a ton of women in jiu-jitsu comparatively, to men. And before moving to Tulsa, I had like never met a female black belt. I just never met one yet. Katie hadn't gotten hers yet. And I'd met a few purple belts and met a few black belts. Maybe I'd seen, like one black belt that helped out an instructor at a seminar, that was female.
Right.
But just not seeing that many women as upper belts in jiu-jitsu, it's like hard to see yourself as that female brown belt when you haven't seen a ton of female brown belts.
Well, I also feel like as women, we are always like on just a little bit behind because we're mostly training with men who, even if they're the same size, biologically it's a different thing. So we always feel like, did we actually earn this? Because, so-and-so beats me all the time or whatever.
Totally. Oh my gosh. I so relate to that. Yeah. So I just was not expecting it. And at first I was like, no way. Like, is this real? Like,
oh my God.
Again, I was like, did I really earn this? But this time, like about a week later, I kind of stepped into my brown belt role and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty good.
That's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, something that we talk about a lot is like feeling imposter syndrome in jiu-jitsu. So it's cool that you like came into it like a week. You felt like a brown belt. Like the imposter syndrome didn't last long.
Just moving through.
No, it didn't. I don't know. Maybe it's like just spending more time in jiu-jitsu. I've kind of like come to a new understanding about belts. Kind of like what you were saying, Jen, like that as like ladies, we're training with men, even if they're our same weight, like there is this edge that they have that's different, like, cause they have different kinds of bodies. Their bodies are built differently.
Right.
And so like, I see a belt more as like like an average. So
yeah, I like that.
Like, in like statistics, they have that bell curve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of like, the average in the middle, and that's where most of your rounds are at. So like most of the time as a purple belt, you could go against a purple belt, and most of the time that would be a good challenge for you. Most of the time you might get the better of a blue belt, like in certain moments in the round,
Right.
And most of the time you're getting the better of the white belts, but there's that one really feisty one who's the outlier who like, you're like, fine, whatever, I'll talk to you, dude. So like there's these outliers on either end that like make us question our belts.
Yes.
But it's really like kind of this average of like, our, I don't know, like against like if you're a purple belt, you're another purple belt should be a challenge, because you're kind of even.
Exactly.
You
have to work really hard to stalemate it.
Yeah, I used to think like as a purple belt, I should be beating up other purple belts.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And that kind of gives you imposter syndrome, or that I should always be able to kick a blue belt's butt.
Right.
But it's really just that average. So that's kind of what helped me come to terms with my brown belt is like that average has really come through for me with my brown belt. I'm like, yeah, on average, I could probably kick your butt.
I love that.
This is like a mindset changer for me. Thank you for sharing this insight because, wow, I feel a lot better about my jiu-jitsu.
Good. Yeah.
Wow.
Also, as a brown belt, like I've just had opportunities to teach more and for people to like come up and ask me like, you know, questions about things, or like, you know, I'll have some of the guys at the gym be like, Maddy, I watched your round. Like, that was so crazy. What was this thing that you did? And I'm like, ah, ha, ha, ha. Like, that's brown belt me, you know, that's brown belt me that does moves that people see that they want to know how to do it, you know?
Yes. I love that. So you kind of got a little break from the mat recently for your hip surgery.
Oh, yeah. I want to hear about that.
So, what happened? I know you said previous that you had already had a labrum repair. Was it the same injury?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was. Like, this kind of came full circle for me, and just out of nowhere, I tore my labrum again. And it was really emotional for me just because it was like the last time this happened, I lost my sport. And you know, it didn't happen like in one moment of training. It kind of happened a little bit over time. I was having increasing hip pain. Right. And I was like, oh no, this feels familiar, you know?
Yes.
And so I didn't waste time this time around. I like, as soon as I felt it hurting, took a 2-week break just to kind of let anything little heal.
Right.
Which is kind of my standard for if I tweak something or, you know, roll my ankle, I always just take a 2-week break.
That's smart.
Yeah, I'll walk or I'll do other things, but just no jiu-jitsu for 2 weeks. Cause you never know, like you could hop back in the round and feel like it's okay. And then pop or something, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I took my 2-week break, came back, and it hurt more. And I was like, no. So,
oh my God, that's terrible.
Yeah. So that next morning, I called and I made an appointment right away with the surgeon to have them MRI me and just see me, because I was like 99% sure it was a labral tear, and I wasn't going to waste time, you know, going to a doctor and being like, what should I do? This time I was just like, get me in to see this surgeon. I know my labrum is torn and you need to fix it.
Right.
Because there's no like real other route when you tear like cartilage.
Yeah.
Other than surgery. Like, surgery is really your best bet. If I chose not to do the surgery, I couldn't do sport anymore.
Yeah.
And it would be like 80% more likely I'd develop arthritis in this hip. And it would happen like 10 years earlier than it would have. So it was really an easy decision because I was like, I need, you know, besides jiu-jitsu, like I really only ever feel like really content and happy when I have like movement in my life.
Yeah.
And so, you know, whatever the outcome from the surgery was going to be for me, I knew I needed to get it done because I want to hike and I want to, you know, dance and I want to, you know, run with my dog and stuff. So I chose to get the surgery. I had it in November last year. So we're about like 4 months post-op, or, you know, getting close to 4 months. And it's been rough. I miss jiu-jitsu probably every day. I think about it all the time. Yeah.
So what is the recovery like? So what's like the timeline?
I can probably return to drilling in May.
Okay.
And like this time around, I'm treating my recovery like very seriously. Like the first time I was 18 and I was going through heartbreak with losing ballet. And, you know, I did my physical therapy exercises and stuff, but like this time I am like a monster with my physical therapy. Like you don't want to push too hard. So I'm careful in that way as well. But like, there's not a day that I'm supposed to do my exercises that I miss.
Right.
You know?
Oh my gosh. I bet your physical therapist love you.
I asked her the other day, I said, I'm not your best client.
Oh my gosh. So I work in rehab. My husband's a physical therapist and I'm an occupational therapist. So you are a dream patient. Just hearing you talk, I'm like, our PTs in our clinic would fight over you. So good for you, girl. You
that.
keep it up.
Thank you. Yeah, they're very confident in my outcome for getting back into jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is different than ballet.
Yeah.
And I'm confident that I'll be able to continue jiu-jitsu, even if it's maybe I just don't put my body in certain positions for a while until I feel more comfortable.
Yes.
And I'm definitely going to roll with people that I really trust. I'm happy that I spent all this time doing jiu-jitsu here, because now I have a really good group of training partners that I know that I'll be safe with to come back in.
That's great.
Yeah. But it was also really an emotionally challenging experience for me, because like I was saying, movement is sort of what brings me happiness every day, and being on crutches, even just for the 4 weeks that I was, it showed me that I have a lot more learning and growing to do, just when it comes to tolerance of discomfort, or just tolerating being able to not do what I want to be able to do.
Yes.
It showed me, and it kind of forced me to become a little bit more adaptable, and to have to kind of look forward to the little things instead of, looking forward to jiu-jitsu training. I can't do jiu-jitsu training. So today, I'm looking forward to doing my PT exercises, or today I'm looking forward to drinking my coffee as the sun rises. So I had to focus on smaller things to kind of keep myself afloat, but my mental health really struggled. And I just had to hold on until at least I got off crutches. That's when things got a lot better for me, more tolerable for me. I'm not great at letting other people do things for me sometimes. So it sucks to have to sit there and be like, can you please bring me my pasta from the kitchen?
Oh man. So you had mentioned ice bathing earlier. Has that just become a daily thing for you, or is it something that you used previous? Are you still using that? And if so, what's it helping you with?
Yeah, I want to tell you all about this because it's really cool. So after ballet and I started doing jiu-jitsu, I'd sometimes have a little bit of hip pain. And when you're icing your hip, it's kind of hard to be confident in are you really getting to the source? Where you put the ice pack on your butt, or on the front of your leg? How can you target this pain with an ice pack? And so I would fill a tub with ice and I'd sit in there waist deep in an ice bath, kind of, but this was 6 years ago or so. This is when I was a white belt and blue belt.
Yeah.
And I was training hard and my kind of hips weren't used to it. They still had some scar tissue from the surgery. So I started kind of baby ice bathing that. And then I was hearing about ice bathing just in some of the different podcasts I listened to. I really love Andrew Huberman. He's a neurobiologist at Stanford. And he does a lot of research in kind of just health and human bodies. And he has really cool stuff that he talks about, but ice bathing is one of them. And I was like, you know what? I want to try this. If I've already been bathing waist deep, what's, just my upper body involved in as well. Let's add it in and let's see. And it has so many cool benefits. It boosts dopamine. So you have a dopamine increase for the whole rest of your day after ice bathing.
Oh, wow.
I don't do it every day. It's sort of like working out where one ice bath is pretty good a week. One ice bath is better than no ice bath, one workout's better than no workout. But consistently ice bathing a couple times a week for a long period of time, a couple months, is really when I started to see huge benefits. I feel I'm more energetic. I sometimes would get tired in the afternoons and stuff. And so actually sometimes time my ice bath for like when I would need that next cup of coffee.
Okay,
I'll get in the ice bath and that'll wake you up, you know. I sleep better. I have a fitness tracker, and so it kind of can show me a lot of different cool metrics like my heart rate variability, my respiratory rate, my resting heart rate. And I do a lot of different things to take care of my body. So, you know, sometimes it's hard to say that ice bathing is exactly what has, you know, shown all this progress.
Right.
But I definitely have seen so much progress in the last year since I started regularly ice bathing. And it's a really good, like, mental fight.
Yeah.
Like, everything in my day feels easier. Like, imagine, you're like, oh, man, I don't want to call the doctor today and set up that appointment. Or, like, I don't want to take the trash out. Like, certain things that you're avoiding.
Right.
After you take an ice bath, it's like, that was already so hard. Like, you made yourself sit in this ice cold water, and it never gets easier. It never gets easier, by the way. Like, doing them consistently, it's still just as hard to get in because it's so cold.
How cold do you keep yours?
Kind of depends. I was reading somewhere that actually, like, with women and our cycles, it's better to kind of do less cold during your luteal, you know, more cold during your like ovulation week when you're kind of at more like energetic and peak time. So I'll do anywhere between like 40 degrees and 50. Okay. Somewhere in there. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be freezing. Like even 50 degrees you get in and it is just a shock. You want to get right out, you know? Yeah. But, you know, doing that ice bath, everything else is easy the rest of the day. Like, it's not hard to call your doctor or do anything you've been putting off because you've kind of broken through that mental wall of like, I don't want to do this. And you've broken through it so strong and hard for that day that, you know, that wall just isn't there anymore to tell you that you don't want to do this or that. Yeah. And so it's like kind of like a willpower trick. To make yourself do that, and then everything else for the day, I feel like feels so much easier. I have one in my garage, and I'll just like, I'll use it too. Like, I'll feel a headache coming on. No, I'm not. I'm going to go do an ice bath. And sometimes that kind of like zaps my system. It's like kind of you're stressing your body out, but in a positive way. Right. It doesn't feel positive while it's happening, but, but you know, so, you know, that's another thing like I've been working on is kind of using more of like these homeopathic things, like to kind of get ahead of fatigue or get ahead of a headache coming on. And so I use my ice bath like that.
So if you could give one piece of advice to somebody going through a major life change and transition period, what would it be?
There's a lot of different things, you know, but I feel like the main one would be to get curious, like get curious about what brought you here. Get curious about like what's next. Get curious about like what are you going to eat for breakfast tomorrow? Get curious about the new little coffee shop down the street from you. Get curious about what might bring you joy in these moments, and like get curious about what you could do to take care of yourself. I think like trying not to put I think being curious can keep you from being judgmental. And it can also, getting curious can kind of provoke hope, you know, or things to look forward to while you're going through a tough time. Right. So just kind of like being curious about everything in your life and kind of just being open to, you know, what the possibility of what's next. And if that's too big, then kind of like I was saying, the possibility of what's next in the next 5 minutes, you know? Yeah. If you're having a really tough time, like what could I look forward to 10 minutes from now when I'm done melting down crying, you know? Yes. So just kind of taking care of yourself in that way, I think really makes a huge difference for me when I'm struggling.
I love that.
That's fantastic.
That's really great advice.
Oh, man.
Oh, all right. So I've got really quick. I like to do a quick, like rapid fire to wrap it up. So if if you're down for that,
let's do it.
Okay. So gi or no gi?
Nogi.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Dogs or cats?
Both? I have both.
Favorite submission?
Oh, arm bars. Armbar. I'm an armbar hunter.
Love that. Beach vacation or mountain getaway?
Probably beach.
All right. Guilty pleasure TV show.
Ooh, The Bachelor.
Okay. All right. If you had a super fight tomorrow, what would your walkout song be?
What's going on? Do you know that song? And I said, hey, yeah, yeah. You know that one?
Awesome. I love it.
That one.
And last one, if your best friend had to describe you in 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
Maybe spontaneous, confident, talkative.
Perfect. Well, this has been such an awesome conversation. I feel like I took a lot away from it. I think that you are very well spoken, and you should totally write a book because I would read the shit out of it.
Yes, ma'am. Please do.
I love that. I can't wait till I can see you ladies and like hang out in person and train sometime. I see that in our futures.
I look forward to getting my ass kicked by you.
Yeah, that's coming. I'm ready.
All right. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Bye, Maddie.
Thank you too. It's been awesome. See you ladies.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Check us out on Instagram at chokeholdsandchillpod or shoot us a message at chokeholdsandchillpod@gmail.com.